Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads, and welcome to my June wrap-up part 1 romance edition. How the fuck have you fallen in love? I'm not a teenager anymore. If they're in real life, definitely they need to see a therapist or probably kids in college like shagging each other or whatever. I entered into a fake dating relationship with someone. Not that that's ever going to happen. So I've read quite a lot of romance books recently. I've been really ploughing through them, and currently so far this month I've been managing to read a book every single day, which is quite considerably. I'm already at the point where I gave up last month. Like, I wasn't trying to read a book a day in June like I did in May, but I crashed and burned in May, and I just happened to be reading a book every day, and it's like I was ahead of myself for quite a few days. So some days I haven't finished a book, but most days I have. Like, most days I've been doing it as we go instead of just reading 4 books in one day, which is like what I tried to do last month. Still don't have the energy to like sell up a decent little backdrop, but I thought, I'm sure you guys don't mind, and I thought I'd talk about the romance books that I've read so far this month. And just to break it up a little bit, there'll be plenty more to come. There may even be a romance edition part 2 and then all the other books again separately, because currently I've read 18 and I have 8 books here to show you, so I've definitely got like 3 videos at least worth of books to talk about. First of all, let's talk about books by Rena Kent. Now, I've read all of the Alstone High, no, RES, Royal Elite School romance series, and these are, started reading them last month, but a lot of them I've read this month. So I read Black Knight, Vicious Prince, Ruthless Empire, and Royal Elite Epilogue. So that's the epilogue of all of them, and I think there's like 4 books before that. 4 books before that, I think, and then 1 that's like a prequel series, and 3 about the like main couple that are quite long. And to be fair, these are all on Kindle Unlimited. I binged them hard, like I hard binged them, and I enjoyed them for what they were. The romance, they're like extreme like bully romances. Like, these are some of these things that happen in these stories are extreme. Like, they are high drama, high stakes, rich kids running around like nothing else matters. There's a lot of trigger warnings and trauma in these books. There's like, across the series there are extreme levels of trauma and child abuse and child molestation amongst some things, and plenty of other things. Like, there's lots of like dealing with triggering content, and it's not always dealt with in the best way. I wouldn't recommend this to anyone who has particularly strong triggers of any kind. There it explores a very, Rena Kent describes her romances as very dark, which they are very dark, and you think, how the fuck have you fallen in love? But mostly a lot of the instances happen where there's something already happens to them and they are just rejecting it, rejecting their feelings, which isn't good. The relationships are hugely toxic, not to base your life on, but still very thrilling reads. I'm not a teenager anymore, so I can now distinguish. I think if you can distinguish like what is a healthy relationship and what is not a healthy relationship, but also be like, oh, I still want them to be together in the book, but also if they're in real life, definitely they need to see a therapist and meet other people, I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I wonder sometimes if the trauma is used as a little bit of a plot device because it occurs so regularly, but then also I think, like, oh, is it something to do, like the way their trauma is placed is very like rich upper class elite, like exposed type situation. I wonder if that has something to do with it. There's not much variety in the stories, in the sense that sometimes you get a series following all of the popular kids in school, like, or popular kids in college, like shagging each other or whatever, and there's like one enemies to lovers, there's one bullying, there's one like childhood friends, brothers best friends, that sort of, you got ones that deal with different tropes. These all have the same tropes. They vary slightly. One of them features an arranged marriage, eye roll, and like one of them's a little, it's just, there's a lot going on. And to be fair, they were really fun and I just wanted to reach the end, but also I was a bit like, sometimes I was like, this is so too much, but in like a bingeable kind of way. I hope that makes sense on the first 4 books that I read of romance. Next one I read was Fake It Till You Break It by Meg. I want to go Megan because she's American, like Megan. Her name's Megan with an A. Brandy. And I loved this standalone fake dating so much. This is also on Kindle Unlimited. I think only one of these aren't on Kindle Unlimited. And this is a fake dating between 2 science like partners it's an American setting, 2 science partners and their neighbours, and they had been previously like kind of friendly towards each other, and it's the female main character, she wants to catch someone's eye who only really doesn't really see her in that way, and you don't know the motivations behind the main male character, which is a bit shady. I think there's a little ways. It's one of those things where you think that I would be very upset if I entered into a fake dating relationship with someone. Not that that's ever going to happen. If I entered into a fake dating relationship with someone who I didn't know their intentions and what they wanted out of it. It was very good though, it's very fun. It explored a few different things of friendship, a little bit violent, like not between each other, but there's a little bit of like angry stuff, which is quite always high drama and fantastic when it's not realistic. So that's pretty good. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one, and I liked that it was a standalone, because I didn't get wrapped up into a series. I could just read it and then move on to my next romance. I had to delete a couple of videos because I realised I had lots of old videos on here clogging up my memory. So next I read Dear Ava by Isla Madden Mills, and this one had like a very good mystery element to it. It's about a girl who has suffered a sexual assault, unfortunately, and she moves away from her private school in which she is under scholarship, and then decides to come back. She has her own reasons for this, and she comes back to this private school. She is in the foster care system in America, which isn't great, and she comes back and she doesn't know who sexually assaulted her, but she obviously, and there's a lot of the stigma, and explores the stigma around her sexual assault, and also it's almost like a whodunit, like who did this to her, and she has a certain suspect set of people that she thinks might have done it, and because they were at the party, and she had a boyfriend at the time, and he treated her not very nicely afterwards. He said some very horrible things and made it all about himself, and many people don't believe her. It was an American party and they were underage at the time, so obviously it got a lot of people in trouble for drinking, for going to the police and things like that. So it's a very traumatic time for her to be back at the school, and it explores that in great detail. And what I liked about this is you never forget that she is dealing with severe trauma, and she doesn't forget the trauma. She is trying to work through it. She puts on this I'm stronger than anything kind of front, and sometimes it's not the main focus or anything, but it is very present and it's very in her personality. Also, she starts sort of having this flirtatious relationship situational thing with a guy who is friends with her ex, and the attraction is undeniable. It's like off the charts. But he is in that potential group of people, and he has his own issues with some family issues, and he's got some things going on in his family, and obviously he tells her that it wasn't him, and you know, he wants to find out who did it. But also you've got the mystery, the real the mystery element of it is that she is also receiving letters from someone saying, like, writing her poems and telling her how beautiful she is, and she feels it's very stalkery and very creepy, and it gives her like vibes, and she's worried that this is her abuser, her rapist, and she wonders whether they are taunting her because she is now back in the setting. Yeah, it explores some very dark themes, it explores a lot. And one thing I absolutely loved at this, it had a very common trope near the end, a very common situation. However, this plays out in a completely different way. The ending is still the ending and what you expect from a romance novel. However, you know, is what you expect. However, it plays out so differently, and I loved it. I thought, wow, I'm really down, I'm really here for this. The way it's played out, it's really interesting. I won't say anything, any spoilers or anything, but if you've read Dear Ava, because I know it's quite a popular one, let me know in the comments what you thought about the way sort of the climax played out. I thought it was different. We have Crossed the Line by Becca Steele. This is part of the Elstone High series, or is set in the same world. I think the series is called The Four, and there's a couple of other standalones in this. This is a novella, and it follows two characters who are in a relationship in the series, and it's sort of their meeting and the development of their relationship. And at the beginning, it's a male-male romance, by the way. And at the beginning, one of them is out and the other one is not out, and hasn't thought about, hasn't considered himself to be on the LGBTQ spectrum at all. This is really interesting because it's got the sporty twist to it. I quite like sporty romance, they're quite good. But also, I like the fact that they get together quite early on in the novella, because it's a novella and it has sort of like, it's almost like vignette-y, but it sort of explores the development of their relationship and like their coming out of their relationship and the progress for that. All of these books have quite high sexual content, but in this situation there is some, definitely, and there's a discussion to be had about whether it's a fetishized romance, a fetishized novella, or if it is mainly there to include diversity amongst the range of the series. I really liked the other series. I thought it was really fun. You can see my timer for my lunch. I thought it was really a really good series. Also had its problematic elements, but overall really enjoyed it. And I think with this one, I'm still not sure where I sit on the fence with it, whether I feel like it's like what the purpose of it was, because there was a lot of cute moments in there, and I wonder if it was fetishized. I'm not sure about this author's history of writing LGBT romances or including them in her series, so I think that's definitely something I'll have to look into, something to consider. And then last but certainly not least is one I only finished a few days ago, and I read this because of a work colleague, but also because of Steph from Steph Loves, and that is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. And I think everyone's reading The Deal at the moment because of Steph. She was reading it on some sprints, whatever's on sprints, and it's basically a sports romance, and it is another fake, it's not really fake dating, there's a bit of tutoring going on, and it's about two students of college, and college, because they're in America. And one of them passes a test that the other one needs to pass in order to keep playing ice hockey. And I thought, it's made me think, oh god, I'd love to watch a bit of ice hockey, that'd be so fun. Not play it though, I'm terrible on the ice. So, and she pledges to tutor him, and she also has some past trauma. I don't know, I'm trying to think now if any of them don't involve past trauma. I need to read some without some past trauma. And they sort of strike up a little bit of a deal, they do some favours for each other, and there is an element of like fake dating, but more like for appearance, they're trying to appear in a certain way. But it gets sort of over that very quickly, and there is sort of like a few bumps, but it's very good. I like the side characters, I liked the main characters, I liked the main guy. So fun, so sweet. But there is something to be said about all of these, because they all do contain some form of ridiculous toxic relationships, or ridiculous young adults making stupid decisions, and some problematic elements. And I think I've not read any so far. I'm trying to think, like, I try to evaluate like how problematic are the problematic elements, like are they in the sense that they're just toxic characters, which is, you know, perfectly allowed to be on the page, or is it sometimes a case of, okay, this is too much, this is glorifying this sort of thing. So I try to evaluate with every romance read as I go, but I just want to say, if you find, I would definitely look at a list of triggers for each of these books before you read them. I can cover some, but there's a lot going on, and there's some very specific triggers. Storygraph is quite good for looking at triggers, like inputted triggers, but I know there are greater websites, and some of these authors include trigger warnings in their author notes, which is fantastic. And I think that, you know, just take these recommendations. They're not even recommendations, this is just me talking to you about what I've read. None of these I would rate a 5 stars. Probably most of them would be a 3, maybe a 3.5, because of the like trashy elements of them. That's not saying that I didn't enjoy them. I loved these so much, they were so fun, but there are certain things that I'm just like, well, it's not the best, is it? And some of the writing isn't a whole 100%. I really like The Deal, and I really like To Fake It Till You Break It. Those are two of the favourites that I've read. So thank you so much for watching this video, and please just take everything I said with a pinch of salt, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye. I'm predicting right here on camera that this is going to be 5 stars. I want muffins, so I made muffins. That's the aim of the channel, non-concise thoughts.